What's up out there? In the last video, I talked about trying a different ascendancy out for Legacy of Phrecia. I run into a brick wall where I can't get past the Maven. That's the big fight that I'm stuck on. So I'm not necessarily burned out on playing my Behemoth Cyclone. I kind of wanted to, number one, try out some of these other ascendancies while I had time, so I spent a little bit of time this weekend working on it. I also worked on my Behemoth Cyclone build. We're going to look at that here in just a second. I wanted to show this one off real fast first, because I've basically spent the weekend getting away from the Cyclone build and the grind and all that, and working on this. So this is a Architect of Chaos, I think is what the ascendancy is. It is on the Templar side of things, and I went with Valspark. I honestly don't know why specifically, other than that was like, when I first started playing this, when I first started working on this ascendancy, that was one of the only Vol skill gems that was low enough level to work. Like most of them, you needed to be a little bit higher level to actually use. So I started off with Valspark and I stuck with it. It's not a skill that I necessarily like. In fact, I remember a conversation in some video from months ago or sometime last year, maybe. It was a while back. I had tried a bunch of skills out and I commented something that I didn't really like, Spark. And somebody said once you get the projectile speed on it, it's really good. And I just remember that comment, and I'm coming back to it and actually trying this out. Yes, I absolutely see why you want projectile speed on it. This is really good. I don't think we're going to get enough level. I want to get this level before we move on. But I'm working with Energy Shield, which I'm not terribly comfortable with exactly. Like, I know it's like a second health bar or whatever, but it's not something that I like. The regeneration of it, or I know there's like leech and stuff like that. I don't think spells leech though, but keeping your energy shield built up and not like I know people do chaos inoculation with it and everything. I don't know how you get to that point. Like, I don't know how to get there. You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely a little bit beyond my skill set at the moment. So the more I work with these classes, alternate classes and things like that, the better I'll get with it. But pretty much what we've got is Spark, Valspark, and I'm getting 20,000 DPS. I think that's pretty high for where I'm at in the campaign. I'm in Act 9 here so far. Running Divine Retribution with the shield setup. I've got a ton of uniques on this. We're running like this Moon Sorrow's got increased spell damage, increased lightning damage, increased cast speed. Got these Dodre's Tenure for the increased spell damage and cast speed. The Wake of Destruction for movement speed, but they also add lightning damage and shocked ground. We've got the Sage's Road, the Zondethu's Cassock for increased lightning damage, energy shield, chaos res, the Saphel's Frame. Like, this is not a build I would be able to put together on a league start scenario where I have nothing. So it's benefiting from a lot of gear. I've also, like, this Lahup's got big elemental resistances on it. This thing's got a bunch of resistances on it. This Karui Ward has increased projectile speed and damage and movement speed. Like, this has got enough extra oomph on it that it's been a pretty good experience, and I've like melted some of the bosses off that I've fought so far. On the Ascendancy side, I've gone for Fever of Corruption, which gives you increased skill effect for Vol skills and reduced souls per use. So essentially I can use this Valspark twice before it goes into regeneration mode. And then I've got Chaos Reigns to get +3 level of all Vol skill gems. On the passive tree itself, I've pathed up through elemental damage, picked up, elemental resistances here, chance to freeze, things like that, freeze, shock, and ignite. Went over here to the resistance side with 50% elemental damage with Divine Judgment and Divine Wrath for the fizz damage, fizz pen, stuff like that. We've gone through and picked up Arcane Capacitor. We've got Sanctum of Thought. Gone in here for Sovereignty for the reservation efficiency, Purity of Flesh for life. We've got Essence Infusion for energy shield restart. Insightfulness for increased energy shield. I picked a bunch of stuff for energy shield recharge. We've got some stuff for block, like Arcane Guarding. Chance to block spell damage is over there. We've got Unnatural Calm for increased energy shield, lightning rest, things like that. Took all the lightning nodes up around this corner here, picked this lightning section up here, and gone into Essence Surge over here. So that's kind of what I've focused on for this build, and I've got a point I don't know what to do with. I'll have to research that out. But I've had a blast playing this. I don't know how far it's going to go, and I need to go look at my stack of Vol gems here and see if there's something else that I want to run. Maybe Absolution or something, maybe tinker around with that, because that's also lightning, and I could maybe put that on the weapon and pair that off. I'm not entirely sure. It's all vol based, so I can just do whatever else with these and just tinker around with whatever I've got. But this one was like a little side project that I wanted to take on. I gave some thought to my Behemoth Cyclone build, so let's go switch over to that and take a look at what I've done there. Now, in the last video, I mentioned that I wanted to do a different ascendancy because, you know, it's Phrecia League. I wanted to try some stuff out, but I'm basically at my skill cap where I normally, this is where I get. I can get both Void Stones. I can get the Eater and the Exarch down. I've never beaten the Maven yet. I can usually do Form, Twisted, Forgotten, Elder Slayers. I'm not sure if I could do the Hidden altogether, but I can definitely beat all of those bosses apart. So all the ones that I mentioned, I can beat every one of those bosses, no problem. I think I've beaten the Cortex before. I don't think I've ever done Cheula, the Alluring Abyss, Shaper's Realm. I might have done Shaper's Realm, but absence of meaning and value and meaning. Like most of the feared fights, I don't think I've ever won, aside from one or two of them. I might have actually beaten one or two of those. I've either beaten the Elder or the Shaper. I'm not exactly sure which. But if you go into the section in here with the fragments, I don't know what these bosses are because I barely ever fight them. The sacrifice fragments, I've beaten that one before, whatever her name is. I've beaten her. I think I've beaten the mortal version of her as well. There's a lot of reflect in there, so I tend to bounce out pretty hard, not necessarily win against those. But I'm pretty sure I've beaten at least those two. I don't know what these crests get you. I like the fragments or these. I'm not sure what gets you what. I know I've fought Cyrus and lost. He's a pretty difficult fight. There's the Shaper, the Elder, and I'm not sure who the other one is. But I've beaten one of these. So I'm kind of stuck. Those are the ones that I haven't done. Well, the comment that in the last video I got was, why not try to fight all these other fights? Which is a good point. I got to thinking about it. I was kind of just going to give up and not worry about it, maybe just go do the Maven once or something like that, but I didn't really give any thought to doing these other fights. So I am going to try them. I'm starting to build up fragments, and I wanted to take a break from that grind because it is an absolute grind, which is why I started that other build and just kind of got away from it for the weekend, did some other things, played some other games, kind of got away from it. But I did spend time on this build yesterday trying to figure out how I was going to take this from not being able to fight the Maven or unable to fight the Maven well and try to get into the Maven fight. What could I do to make my damage better, to make my build better? What could I do to fight all these other bosses and take things to another level, the level that I haven't gotten? And this is where my ceiling is. So I don't know how to get through this ceiling. I know I probably need to get things like awakened gems and stuff like that, but I don't have any yet, or I don't have any that I can use. I do have an awakened Ellie pin or a lightning pin. So this will be great for that Vol Spark build, but it's not good for what I've got going on with this. I need some other stuff like an awakened brutality, or if such a thing exists, an awakened pulverize or melee fizz or whatever. I need some awakened versions of these. At any rate, without those, I was trying to figure out what I could do to this build to make it a little bit better. Now, if you remember, I was running Bladestorm and I was putting Culling Strike on Bladestorm up in my helmet, and I think I had on my boots, I had Leap Slam with a little bit of support gems in there to try to bump up the damage a little bit. What I've done since then is rethought how my build is put together. So I was running Bladestorm, and basically what I would have to do is stop, click the Bladestorm button. So you basically, you're in Cyclone, you're moving around, you're killing things, you're doing damage. You have to stop doing DPS, press the buttons to do the Bladestorm, and there's a very big potential to take a massive hit or take damage or get killed, basically. So I was trying to rethink that whole process, and I fiddled around with it a little bit. I decided to 6-link this. I found another div somewhere along the line, so I traded it off for some fusings, and I 6-linked my axe. And I started working on Bladestorm, and then it finally clicked. I'm like, why would I want to do that? But as I was working on the Bladestorm part, I started thinking, you know what? One thing that I learned, I don't remember which league it was, but I put together a build where I was doing it might be my Tectonic Slam build, in fact, where I was putting on Infernal Cry because you get Combust. And what I found out with Combust is you can actually put in stuff like, well, increased area of effect. It's not necessarily we'll talk about that in a second, but you can put stuff like Elemental Proliferation. You can actually if you put Infernal Cry up here, you can put 5 other support gems for Combust. So you could put things like Ignite and things like that on it, and you can actually boost the damage because Combust is basically another skill at this point, and you can keep pumping the damage up and doing things with it. So, but the kicker is you cannot exert Cyclone. So you can't exert Cyclone. There's nothing you can do with it. I can throw this out here and I can't do anything with it. And you cannot get Combust to actually apply to anything unless you hit them with something. And you have to hit them with an exerted attack. So I was working with Bladestorm and I was trying to figure out how to work all that together, which kept the problem of having to stop and cast Bladestorm, or use Bladestorm as an attack, not cast. You have to use it as an attack, which means you stop moving and you stop cycloning and all that. And then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? Why am I not promoting Leap Slam up and using that as my prime mover for damage? So I started trying to bump my Leap Slam damage up. Number one, I wanted to have Culling Strike on here. So we've got Culling Strike. So this is going to be, you're getting close to the end of a boss fight. You can start slamming this thing down. In fact, we can go, you know what, we'll go into a map real fast here. Let's go, just grab the first map that comes along. Yep, that's fine. Yeah, we're not going to die. So I want to demonstrate this a little bit. So what I did is we've got Leap Slam. I went with faster attacks because that makes you move faster. You don't have to, you can Leap Slam much quicker with faster attacks. If you don't have that, there's like a little pause in the attack cadence. So you put this in, it gets rid of that pause. We've got Brutality. I don't necessarily care about damage so much. What Brutality does is it says no elemental damage. So if I'm in a map that reflects elemental, I have to remember not to use Combust, but then I can use all my other stuff without worrying about Reflect. And I've also got Brutality over here on my Cyclone, so I don't have to deal with, I have to deal with melee Fizz Reflect, but I don't have to deal with Elemental Reflect. So I didn't want to have one skill doing it and one skill not, and then, you know, it just kind of messes it up. I also put Impale on here. I've got Impale into my Cyclone setup. I figure I'm already spec'd into it. May as well throw an Impale on there and take advantage of that. Melee Fizz. And then we've got Culling Strike. Let's see here. I'm working up Conk Effect and Infused Channeling. I think I've got enough int on here to level these up. So what I want to try doing is taking my Infused Channeling and swapping it out with Concentrated Effect. So if I go fight a boss, I'll swap those out if I can remember. I always forget to do that. But and I'm also leveling up another one on the side. I'm going to try to vol it and see if I can get a 2120. I had not very good effects on leveling the other stuff up. But we've got Infernal Cry with Urgent Orders, so you can increase your Warcry speed, increased area of effect. I want to throw this out as far as possible. And I've got Elemental Proliferation, so you can ignite. Basically, I'm looking for the ignite on this. I'm not looking for Combust to do damage. What I'm looking for is, where does it say that? The user in nearby, nope, not that, not that, not that. Where's it at? In addition to being taunted, enemies are inflicted with a secondary debuff, causing them to explode when they die, dealing fire damage in an area. And I believe somewhere on here it says, explosion deals base fire damage equal to 8% of the monster's maximum life. With this build, I can't cast spells and I don't have auras or anything like that, so everything has to be something I can do with my character. So my concept is, if you throw out the Warcry, if you throw this out, you get 6 Leap Slams you can do. That's 6 chances to apply Combust to a monster or a set of monsters, and it taunts them. You apply the Combust to them, so it's doing a little bit, it's doing a minor amount of damage to them. I had it where I was 6-linking it. I was trying to do like bleed and poison and all that just to do every little extra bit of damage. But I think I decided I wanted to do leap slam and try to do more damage with that. Just have this as an added little something something on the side that's going to get applied to the monster. And then leap slam is also a damaging skill. It's not as damaging. Like I'm doing 148,000 tooltip DPS on Cyclone, whereas Leap Slam is only 53,000 and the Combust is only 7,000. But those all totaled up as a package add together, if that makes sense. And we get Culling Strike, and it's on another movement skill. So as we're cycloning around, if I need to get away from a boss or something really thick, big and thick, we can get away from it. Let's see, we're going to need to do our War Cry and start blasting on things. It's kind of difficult to see the explosions that are in here because of the rampage explosions that go off, but they're all in there somewhere. Now, I know I'm not necessarily doing combust on any of this stuff here. Let's grab this crap up real fast. What we need to do is find something kind of thick, War Cry on it, make sure it's got a little bit of combust going on. And then when we're ready to cull it off, boom, leap slam into it. So I think that's kind of the way to go versus trying to stop and do a blade storm. Like if I can juice up that leap slam and get it, you know, my Cyclone's for clearing. That's pretty much what Cyclone is. But if I run into something where I need to have the extra bit of effect, so we can come in here and let's see here, get this thing off to the side. Crank out some little damage, and then when it's time to kill it, leap slam it a few times. So you're, number one, you're stay moving. You're not stopped waiting to throw a blade storm out. You don't have to, because, and there's times where the blade storm didn't exactly go off like I thought it should. But you're also exerting your leap slam. So I've got 6 exertions of it until we have to, or until we're able to cast it again. Then we go beat on things. I think it's actually working out fairly well. So my concept with this Cyclone build, or with the Behemoth itself, just the Behemoth in general, is to try to create as many tools that do damage as possible. So try to throw as many damaging effects and everything on here as I physically can. And this is the attempt at keeping those on. I wanted to get that unique axe that had the little projectiles it threw out. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten that axe, so we can't try that out, but I'm really interested in trying that one too at some point. But I think this is kind of cool. I think it's worked out really well, and I haven't sank a ton of time into this. I spent some more time R&D on it. I spent a lot of time with R&D on it, I should say. Yeah, see, just leap slam around until that thing's dead and done. So those are the changes that I made to this. I think this, it took me a long time to actually get this to sink in, but it makes a lot of sense that I want Culling Strike on Leap Slam. I don't need Blade Storm. I don't care about that. I can exert. And the other thing is, I was thinking about taking points in the passive tree. You've got over here on War Cries. War Cries cannot exert travel skills. I was thinking about taking that, trying to level up and get some points to put in there or reallocate some stuff. And then that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, why am I trying to get away from Leap Slam when I could just exert Leap Slam and not worry about any of the Blade Storm and all that other stuff? So that's the route that I ended up taking. It took a little R&D to figure it out and get my mind wrapped around what I wanted to do. But I think that's the way to do it, is to do that. So Leap Slam is 6-linked. And then we've got Infernal Cry to exert that, which throws off Combust, and you can get a little bit of extra damage. If something dies while it's combusted, it explodes. I mean, I could theoretically just Leap Slam everywhere and War Cry every once in a while, Leap Slam, kill off packs of stuff. So I think that works out really well. And I've switched my gloves out. We've got new gloves in here. I need to get the implicits fixed on this, but these dropped. I don't know. I don't remember where they were. I rolled them. These are, surprisingly enough, these Tomb Fist gauntlets with Onslaught and whatever gem I've got socketed in here, the Searching Eye Jewel, with I needed the strength and int, and it's got a little bit of life. The fire damage doesn't apply. But with this, with Onslaught and the Maim, actually did pretty decent damage in POB. And to get these to swap out, I had to roll these quite a few times to get the bigger increased attack speed. And I don't know, I was able to craft some int on here so I could relieve some of the other stuff that I had on here. But I think that was the big gear change that I made. I don't remember anything else. I messed around with some of the other stuff like the amulets and rings. I think I've got it where I can pick most of this stuff up. That one I need because it's got the int on it. But I think I'm able to actually level up. I got this infused channeling leveled up. We're working on Conk Effect. I don't know what level that, I need to look and see what level that is, what int it needs. Actually, we're running out of int, so it may be stuck at level 15. But at any rate, doesn't matter. This is where I've gotten to with this build. I think this is a really good option, is to have Cyclone with Leap Slam. They're both movement skills. It just makes sense to have this paired together in the scenario of the Behemoth, because the Behemoth doesn't have anything else. And I've still got some other stuff I could put in here should I choose to. This one's, yeah, this is just leveling up some extra stuff. Like I need to put this enhanced support back up in here, and my empower, keep leveling those up, because whenever this goes back to the regular Settlers League, I'll have those for whatever builds I've got over there. But at any rate, I've still got some extra sockets. I've got like 8 extra sockets I could do something with. Maybe try to find some more of these Abyss, more of the Abyss gear. I got a helmet, but it wasn't anything I could swap out. Try more of these Abyssal Jewels. Everything I get just has one Abyssal Jewel socket. But at any rate, I did spend some time with this. I am going to start this week. I wanted to do a little detour, but starting this week, going back into this week, I'm going to get back into working on the boss fights and spending quality time with that. The build seems fairly strong, and I can do most of the destructive play. There are times when it, if I clear too much of the map and it throws too many of the bosses in destructive play, I could do maybe 2 or 3 bosses. When it gets to 4, and especially the wrong 4, I die and I just have to go pick a new map. Like, it's just not going to happen. So the build still has limitations for sure, but it's doing a lot better than it was. But at any rate, that's the update that I have for now. Hopefully midweek, late in the week, we'll have some good boss fights down or something. I'm not sure. But at any rate, that is going to do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.